Hello, and welcome to episode 20 of the Natalie and Renaissance podcast. This past week, I had the absolute pleasure of being a model in a bridal styling event where instead of showcasing all the vendors with booths and things like that, they actually hosted a faux wedding party where all the vendors actually got to show up as they would on someone's big day, from florists to cake makers to photographers to DJs to the glam squad and the hairstylists. And it was really so fun to participate in. And I made a lot of really great connections there. And so as people would ask me my background and what I do normally, and the topic came up of me being a musician and a teacher, they were like, oh wow, well, modeling is so different from that. But in responding and talking with them, I was telling them and sharing that really I am trained as a performer and a learner. And so these are very similar art forms, but it's just with a different focus. And so in being in front of an audience, in sort of maintaining this air that fits the event, this vibe, and of course with every outfit that I had styled, it was a little bit different effect. And so I was an actress, really enhancing the style of the dress by my attitude or the way I walked. And so that's very much another aspect of performance, and it's very similar to what I would be doing if I were playing a piece of music as a solo pianist. And so going back to that idea of performance, that's something that I kicked off this podcast with, and that vein will never ever go away, because I think thinking as a performer is such a powerful tool to be able to navigate various things as an artist, business owner, and just an individual in this world. And so I wanted to talk about my experience as a model and also how that is just an extension of performance. And again, as I've mentioned, performance isn't just limited to one area, and performance is very much almost a feature of sociology where we are thinking about you as an individual being in the world around others, and what do you influence and what influences you. And so much of performance is related to the delicate dance of the individual and the audience. And I think one thing that maybe heightens people's awareness of being a model or of being a performer is the element of visibility and the element of having that spotlight on you where everyone's attention is focused on you. And I think that is what makes people just a little bit uneasy, because when you are part of a group, you share that attention and that focus, and so no one is bearing the weight of the other people's gaze. But as someone who is a soloist or performing alone or walking alone, modeling solo, you do carry that gaze alone. And so being seen and being comfortable with being seen, owning the space you take, and commanding that attention and accepting it and receiving it, and also being very gracious in that space is the art form of being a performer. And it's also that dialogue of where your internal world meets the outer world. And so really training your inner world and building it in such a way that it doesn't depend on the reaction of the outside world is really crucial to having success as a performer. And if you feel like you are starved for praise, or you are very afraid of criticism, that's not a great place to find yourself in. It just shows that your self-concept is not ready and it's not stable enough for you to go out and have a positive and productive experience to build off of in the future. And so if being in a situation like that just terrifies you, I would really do the inner work around why that would terrify you, and just see, is it where you don't believe in yourself? Have you had other negative experiences? Because there's always something a little bit deeper that has to do with our self-concepts. Now, working as a performer, working with an audience, your audience as a business owner, as an artist, we know that our audience is very important. And a lot of the energy around what we do, no matter if you're a business, musician, artist, a lot of our energy depends on the audience, if you think traditionally speaking. And so as I'm playing something in classical music, I think when people think about giving a recital or a performance of some kind, they are more concerned about what the audience thinks than they are about their own interpretation, about their own influence over the audience. And so in my head, if I were to draw these big energy arrows, someone who thinks like that is really absorbing all the arrows of all the different audience members coming at them, sort of making themselves like a target for those things just by the way they are perceiving how the energy moves, how they are interpreting that energy, which means that they are throwing themselves out of alignment because they're giving much more priority to what the audience thinks over what their own personal ideas and convictions are, which is really not good for a performer. I really think that these things have to be equal. And so, bottom line, that's how a lot of performers think. And so, something that I've had to work on is not so much thinking about the energy coming from the audience, but me, myself, the energy in the room. I have trained myself to feel and to imagine that the energy is coming from me and going to the audience. And that comes in the form of storytelling, in sharing my ideas, in training myself, and of course, in the build out of my holistic self concept that I have something really important to share and no one else can share like I do, and I have a different spin-off, and so my work and my sharing is so much more valuable to me. And so as other people listen to me, I imagine that my story, my gifts are the energy that reaches out to them. And in that way, sharing my work and performing becomes such a gift because it feels like sharing. And of course, in doing this build out around my self concept, I know that my work will not resonate with everyone, and it's not supposed to. My work is supposed to resonate with my kindred spirits. My work is supposed to resonate with people who align with my values. And if it was for everyone, then it wouldn't be as special. And so, in thinking about it like this, it gives me much more groundedness in myself, and it also makes my work a lot more compact, especially when I show up in a new space, in a new arena. I am very aware of a room. I can read people very well. I can read the temperature emotionally, spatially, but I choose to not absorb that, and I choose to not absorb the energy in the room, especially if it's low vibrational or if it's negative. I choose to bring my energy to the room and influence the room and shine in only a way that I can, and to show up with my energy and direct it in a way that I have chosen to do, in a way that I was asked to do, for everyone to have a positive and productive experience. And I think the most important part is that I myself have that positive and productive experience. And I think that's really what being a successful performer is. It's you have the skills, you've been trained a certain way, and it's not even about the skills anymore. It's really about showing up to those spaces and having your energy just perfectly bloom in that new space, even though you may not be 100% comfortable in your bones. Maybe you do have a little bit of anxious excitement, but you don't let that emotion get out of hand. You don't let all these, if these thoughts come in, these little birdies almost like, oh, what if you're not ready? You don't let those things take over your mind. You just sit in your professionalism, you sit with your self-concept, and you let that lead the way. And so that was very much what the modeling event was like for me. Again, it was so fun to let my gifts expand and create room for me in a new professional space that I have not yet been in. I have done some photo shoots and things, but this was my first actual modeling in a fashion and styling sense, and it will not be my last. I know that for sure. But this sense of having your energy influence a room where it's not in a braggadocio way, it's not in a proud way at all, it's in a very confident and sure way where it's just a reflection of your stable and secure self-concept, showing up in a room, being in alignment, and letting that speak for itself. And this training and this thinking as a performer it not only makes you a great business person, but it makes you a great conversationalist because you're not afraid of dialogue. You're not afraid of having great productive conversation where people offer you suggestion, where people can connect with you or network with you because there's always something to learn, there's always something to try, to experiment with. And so performance is so much more than just being able to do something and do something well. It's also about owning these spaces and being comfortable in having yourself meet and interact with other people's energy, and to be very sure of your own energy and to have clarity on your self-concept in a way that it can lead you and also shine in new contexts. And I think whenever you think of a new context, it can mean new visibility platforms, or it could be a new audience. And John Wooden had a great quote. And I think every performer, every person who is in a leadership or in a visibility position needs to hear it. And he said that you cannot let praise or criticism get to you. Both are a weakness to get caught up in either one. And I think if people are just so starved for praise, if they don't get it, they're really off balance. And we need to be operating from that secure place of a self-concept, because if you're not, if you get one criticism, you're going to let that bottom out your whole ship. And all of this work that you have done, you're going to let one little crack in your ship sink the whole thing. Well, why would you do that? And so praise is actually the same way, where sometimes we can get caught up in this flattery, or people just say these nice things because, they're just nice things. But if we're so eaten up at ourselves where we crave that validation for others, that's also a weakness. And so we really need to be careful as performers who we are operating for. And I love sharing my work, but am I doing it only for my audience? No, I'm not. It really is an exchange, a healthy exchange between me, my self-concept, and also my audience. And so thinking about it more like a shared dialogue, a shared energetic experience is really helpful, especially if you're a musician and thinking about planning a recital. Thinking about it like a dialogue and an exchange, maybe it will help you to program more engaging and interactive recital ideas, or events where maybe the audience, because traditionally they haven't had a lot of interaction, maybe they have a little bit more say, a little bit more power, because that is providing more equity and more balance in that environment. Perhaps in a different situation, if you are creating something else and you've had a lot of audience interaction and a lot of audience feedback, maybe you bring it a little bit closer to you and you have a little bit more say in the matter, because I think when we have this healthy balance and this healthy exchange, that is really the art form. That is pure art. And so that was really evident in the event that I just did. And I loved all the vendors, and if you're local here, they are linked in my Instagram, but it was so great to make all these connections, because as I'm talking with these individuals who are event planners, stylists, hair and beauty experts, we are all not so different. We are all extremely, extremely similar. And I love that. I love meeting new people, because as someone who has been trained in a very traditional and a very academic environment, just the fact that you are so isolated in this skill, and of course, when you're doing a very specialized skill set, it does require some isolation to be able to train and learn. But I don't think that we can build out a community that way. We can't build out a business that way. We can't build out a loyal following that way. We have to develop collaboration, community. And so in engaging and talking with all these people, it's just so beautiful. And again, why this podcast is called Natalie and Renaissance, because again, the Renaissance is all about all these arts, all these forms of learning mixing, and that brought about the age of enlightenment and of rebirth and of growth. And I think the more collaboration that we all have in business, in technology, whatever it is, I think the more beautiful and healthy our lives and businesses will be. And I was able to step away from some teaching commitments to be able to do this modeling event. And it's just given me so much energy to bring back into my business, but also to think about more ideas that lie a little bit outside of my business, because I don't want to limit my potential. I don't want to limit my thinking in the same way that my training, that specialized, isolated methodology, I don't want to let that format to keep me away from other things. I want to work toward a place of integration, of collaboration, and of dialogue and community. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about that today, to talk about visibility, to talk about the role of energy and how important, again, it is to have a very secure and stable self-concept as a performer, because that is the difference between a great experience and a not so great experience. And the person who has the reins on that is you. One of my 2024 goals is to be seen more and to show up and to really embrace the visibility of what I do. And I think that sounds kind of funny because, of course, I am no stranger to attention or to limelight, but it feels different this year in a way that I am showing up 100% energetically. I am going to show up 100% in every aspect of life. I think when you're a musician, you are hiding behind something. I think you are, playing your music, so that's something to hide behind. Or, you're with the piano, or you're not looking at the audience. And so, we have these ways of coping with visibility. But this year, I am really committed to showing up and to also accept the fact of being seen, whether that's on social media or other things. And so this year is going to be quite life-changing. I really believe that. And I'm really excited about it because I think before this year, I was not quite ready. My self-concept was not quite stable and secure enough to be able to do that. And so in my journey, in everything that I'm doing, I wanted to share these things that have helped me, because I know there are people out there listening who they want to do big things, but they're sort of nervous with the things that come with them, like criticism or visibility or comments, all these things that come with the territory. And again, this is where we're thinking about the energy coming from other people, and we are absorbing that energy. And I'm here to reverse that energy and to send out my energy and to not absorb the energy of other people. And so that's one of my goals for 2024. And of course, if you're listening and you're a part of my journey, you're going to see that very much. And it's something that I'm working on every day. And I am saying yes to all the opportunities that afford me that skill and that muscle that I'm going to grow and build for myself. Thank you so much for listening today. Please like and follow on Instagram if you're not already at Natalie in Renaissance. We'll see you in the next episode.